Spirituality at work is a set of yoga themes which, when applied at place of work, turns your work experience into divine experience. Most important thing is yoga of action. It's about how one should execute his actions. With sacrifices and self-discipline, one attains highest level of satisfaction at work. This whole world consists of matter and spirit, form and formless. In organizations also, people and materials have form, and processes, policies and values of the organization are formless. Optimal synchronization of people and processes produces optimal results. Applying yoga of devotion principles, one attains divine experience and exhibits divine characteristics when working. Everything exhibits three modes of nature, which is nature of goodness, nature of greed, and nature of ignorance. With divine experience, with divine characteristics, one acts in a very neutral way to all the characteristics he works with. We'll discuss about yoga of action in detail, starting with selfless action. Beautiful verse in Bhagavad Gita, karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phal hetu motte sambuddhava karmani. Your authority is to work only, not to worry about results. And one should also not be particular about one kind of work and averse to another kind of work. There's this story about a saint who was having interesting conversation with an enlightened old lady when old lady asked him to meet butcher in the market. When saint goes to meet the butcher in the market, butcher saw him and said, "Oh, old lady sent you here." Saint was very shocked to hear this. Then he closely observed he was following yoga of action, where he will weigh the meat every time, and when customer asks him how much to pay, he would say whatever you want. So one should gaze at life without expectation for fruits of action. Second theme is yoga of equanimity. Yogastha kuru kurmani sangam tutva dhananjaya siddha siddho samo bhutva samutvam yoga uchyate. A person should work without getting affected by positive and negative results of his action. One meritorious student appeared in an exam and his friend called him just to pull him and said, "You failed the exam." He started weeping. After some time, friend called again and said, "No, you topped the exam." He was overjoyed. Merit is not about how you secure highest marks. Merit in life is about how you can stay positive and neutral during negative experiences. Moving on to next theme, which is you're in action all the time. So there are three types of action. One is your positive action, second is prohibited action, third is no action. When you think you are not doing, but In reality, there is no time when you are not in action. So when somebody thinks he is not in action, he is still in action. And this no action becomes very dangerous, especially when your senses are not in control, because senses will go on vague thoughts and eat all your energies. So one still works because work is entertaining. But one should be very careful that this entertainment should not assault you by doing prohibited actions or by not doing any actions and keeping yourself occupied with vague thoughts, because it eats you like rust. Moving on to next thought is value-oriented action. One should be very careful in analyzing what his action produces as output. Every action should produce an intrinsic value to either self or organization. Let's talk about negative forces which drive you away from action. There are 3 gates to hell, which are desire, anger, and greed. Let's talk about desire first. Desire, though it looks positive, but actually it ends up giving you loss of reasoning and anger at times when people are full of desires. One who has few desires, he gets them, but one who has a lot of desires, he gets very few. And I think we have reached a state as a race where everyone has a lot of desires. With desires, one develops attachment. With attachment, one wants to achieve it anyhow. And once you are not able to achieve your desires, it creates dissatisfaction, which makes you angry. And anger results in loss of reasoning, which is downfall of a person. So man is a rope between animal and enlightened. We are not a goal, but we are a bridge. And it is for us to how to control these 3 negative forces and attain the enlightened state. When you talk about anger, there is this beautiful story about a person who was rowing a boat upstream and he saw one boat coming downstream towards him. He shouted a couple of times. Then when boat was close to him, he observed that there is no person rowing the boat, and he immediately moved away from the way. This is the situation of a person who is angry. So when you see a person with anger, he is like a boat without master on it. Talking about greed, there is a joke about 2 Harvard students who opened a business and they soon ran into losses. Then they sold this business to a businessman who was not so educated but wanted to do something in life. After some time his business started booming. The Harvard students were surprised. They went back to him and asked him, "How did you make this business successful?" He says, "No, there is nothing secret about it. I am not a very educated person. All I do is buy a thing for 100 and sell it for 101. I am satisfied with 1% profit." So sometimes it is greed which causes failure in life. Moving on to the next theme, materialistic action. Most of the people work not for work for money. They work for money. And money can buy you books but not knowledge. It can buy you house but not home. It can buy you medicine but not health. It can buy you a bed but not sleep. So very, very strange with the environment that a lot of people lose their health to make money and then spend their money to regain the health. So too much materialistic action causes one to become sick. So there is a joke about this person who goes to a psychiatrist and said, "I'm terribly worried. My wife thinks she's a horse." Psychiatrist said, "No problems, we'll fix it, but it will cost you money." He said, "Money is not a problem. My wife has won so many horse races." And that's what happens when people think too much about materialistic action. Moving on to the last theme, which is untainted action. Brahmanyadaya karmani sangam tattva karoti sa lipyate na sa papena padma patra mimambasa. One should act without getting untainted, like a lotus leaf doesn't get tainted with the water drops on it. It just flows through it. And that's how one should execute his actions for highest attainment.